Imagine your body fat is a locked emergency stash, like cash in a safe. You could be broke, you could be desperate, you could be in a deficit, and it still won't open if the wrong alarm system is active. That alarm system is insulin. And no, insulin isn't evil. You need it to live. The problem is when it stays elevated long enough that your body never gets a clean window to access stored fuel. So you end up hungry while carrying plenty of energy. That's the trap. Most people never realize this is happening. They just think they're failing. They're not. They're locked out. And here's how that lock gets activated without you even realizing it. You start your day with something light, maybe coffee with sugar or a small breakfast. A few hours later, you grab a bar or a shake. Lunch comes, then something small in the afternoon. Dinner at night. None of this feels like overeating. Most of it even feels responsible. But every one of those moments triggers insulin. And because they're spaced so close together, insulin never fully comes back down. Your body stays in storage mode all day long. Insulin just high enough to quietly block fat access. Also, the side effects start showing up. Hunger feels stronger than it should. Cravings get louder. So you respond the only way you know how. You cut more food. You add more cardio. And in theory, that should work. The problem is that if insulin stays elevated most of the day, your body struggles to access stored fat efficiently. Lipolysis gets blunted and fat loss slows. Everything feels harder than it should. That's not lack of discipline. That's the hormonal environment working against you. This is where real research clears up a lot of confusion. In studies that compare how the body responds to different types of meals, calories are not the only thing that matters. The hormonal response after eating matters too. One study published by researchers at the Federal University of Santa Catarina in Brazil in 2018 compared meals with a low glycemic index versus meals with a high glycemic index. They gave participants meals with the same total calories but different glycemic responses. What they found was striking. After the low glycemic meals, insulin levels rose less and the body oxidized more fat in the hours afterward, even though both meals contained the same calories. In other words, the hormonal environment after eating, not just the calorie counts, influenced how much fat the body was able to use as fuel. This doesn't mean calories don't matter, they do. But it shows that the pattern of insulin after a meal changes how the body partitions energy. If insulin stays high for longer, your body struggles to use stored fat. When insulin spikes less and comes back down faster, your body can actually tap into fat for energy again. That's real physiology, measured and documented, not just internet theories. The problem shows up when meals and snacks are so close together that insulin never fully comes back down. Instead of clear peaks and valleys, you get a long, flat plateau. And that plateau is enough to suppress lipolysis for most of the day. Because people eat normally, assuming the body will handle it, they never give insulin a real chance to drop. You can still be in a deficit and doing the work, but hormonally, your body is stuck in a state where accessing stored fat is harder than it needs to be. And here's what makes this worse. Many people think only big sugar spikes matter. Repeated small spikes can add up to the same suppression effect if they happen often enough. That's why timing matters as much as totals. The trick is not avoiding insulin. That's impossible and unhealthy. The trick is making sure insulin is not elevated all day long. Most people accidentally keep the system activated from morning to night by eating, snacking, sipping something sweet, grabbing small bites, and never creating a real pause. When insulin never gets a chance to fall, the body never receives a clear signal that it's safe to access stored fat. This isn't about willpower or restriction, it's a structural shift. You stop reacting to every craving and start protecting real gaps between meals. When insulin is allowed to come back down, your body can actually start using stored fat again instead of defending it. Hunger becomes more manageable. Hunger stops feeling out of proportion. You're not fighting food all day. And fat loss stops feeling random. This doesn't require fasting all day or cutting foods you enjoy. It starts with structure, fewer eating moments, clear meals instead of constant grazing. Giving your body enough time between meals so insulin can actually come back down. Food choice matters here too. Meals built around lower glycemic foods, proteins, vegetables, and whole carbs already create smaller spikes and faster recovery. Adding healthy fats makes this even stronger. Things like olive oil on a salad, nuts, peanut butter, avocado, or fatty fish slow digestion and reduce how fast glucose hits your bloodstream. That keeps insulin responses calmer and shorter. Then there's movement. Walking sometime after eating, later in the day, or even the next morning helps muscles absorb glucose and reduces how much insulin has to stay elevated overall. It doesn't have to be immediately after every meal to be useful. You're not trying to burn food off, you're guiding where energy goes. When meals are structured, food quality is reasonable, healthy fats are included, gaps are respected, and movement is used strategically. Insulin spikes are smaller, recovery is faster, and the body spends more time outside of storage mode. No hacks or extremes. Just fewer triggers, cleaner gaps, and a system that finally gets time to reset. I'm not sharing this from a textbook. I lived it. I'm someone with a high tendency to gain weight. I always have been. I spent years around 300 pounds trying to force fat loss by just eating less and pushing harder, and I kept running into the same wall. Progress would slow, hunger would spike, and everything felt harder than it should. I thought I lacked discipline. I thought I needed more motivation. What I actually needed was a structure built for a body that easily gains weight, not plans designed for people who stay lean without trying. Once I rebuilt my approach around timing, spacing, and metabolic signals instead of punishment, fat loss stopped feeling random. That's why I put my free guide together, called 7 Steps That Got Me Out of Obesity. It's specifically built for people with a higher tendency to gain weight, so you're not copying routines that don't match how your body behaves. And if you're not sure what your body type actually is, I show a simple trick in the guide that helps you figure it out in seconds, so you can stop guessing and start building a plan that actually fits you. You'll find the link in the description. So if you want something practical based on how the body actually works, grab the guide. It's free, no gimmicks, just a framework you can test in your own routine. This was never about lacking discipline. Most people don't fail because they don't try hard enough. They fail because they're fighting their own physiology without realizing it. When insulin is kept elevated all day, fat loss feels like pushing a car with the brakes on. Once you change the environment, spacing meals, building smarter plates, moving with purpose, the fight stops feeling constant. You're no longer relying on motivation. You're working with how the body actually operates. And when the system is set up correctly, progress stops feeling random and starts feeling earned.